All right. So far what we have learned, let's talk about that. And then we will basically see what is the other way of configuring the same things, more advanced way. So we configured the case type, we configured data model as well, data classes. We created properties, page properties in the work class, relevant work class, and we configured view, right? In the view, we use the properties, work class properties. And ultimately, when we run the case, this is what we see. This is the property. These are the properties basically where the value gets result. But let's look at that, where those views go. How does it relate to basically our flow, our case, our basically process that we have created. That's what we are going to understand, the relation and how is it rendered on the screen finally for the users. Okay, so if you go to the app explorer and open your case, okay, first let me open the case type. So I explained you guys already that every process that you configure are technically called flow, the flow. And to open this flow, just click on the flow name and click on open process on the right hand side. When you open this process, you get this view. This is called flow, or the process. Okay, this is where we configure step by step how things are happening. So all these shapes that you see, those are nothing but the steps that you configured in the um, that you configured basically in the case designer. Okay, so these are the step. When you configure that view on this step by clicking on that configure view option, what happens? Well, from the flow, please pay attention here. From the flow, we have shapes. In the flow, basically, we have shapes. This is one shape. There are plenty of other shapes that you can add from here based on the requirement. We will learn about that. Okay, decision, assignment, sub process, utility, certain advanced shape as well, attach content, create PDF, change to another stage, load data page. I mean, plenty of send email, things like that. There are plenty of such. The one that you see in the green is called assignment shape. This is assignment shape. Okay. On the assignment shape, in this type of flow, which is the screen flow basically, you configured something called flow action. So this shape, especially if it is assignment, on the assignment you configure something called flow action. When you configure the view from here, Pega automatically configures that flow action. But you can come here, you can create a flow here and configure those things manually as well. Or you can reuse the existing one, because this will not reuse. Whenever you will create, it will just use this new flow. So right click on this shape and click on view properties, or double click on this. You see, a flow action is configured here. On the flow action, if you want to open a rule, basically, if it exists, just click on the after the box, just click on this icon. Okay, the crosshair icon, it will open the rule. So it is going to open the flow action rule. Let's see the flow action rule. So on the flow action, you see something called section. Section is a user interface rule that is configured on this flow action. Okay, so this section is actually what user sees. So the flow action, actually they have reference to sections. When you configured the view, Pega automatically created the sections for you. And within the view, you remember you created for customer and for address, you created different view. Those are all getting converted into section, and they all are included in this section, the main section. See, customer section, I've only created one. I did not create the employment, right? So it only has the customer section. Now let me go back and configure. You guys have must have already configured it yesterday, but let me show you. If I want to, okay, did I create the employment property? No, let me create that property quickly. Create. Okay, I created this property. I will mark it relevant so that it is available on the case designer. Now I can search that and employment property, and I can just simply add it. Now this doesn't have any section or view, so I will create a new view. Remember, this view that you are modifying is nothing but this create section. Create section is getting modified. This create section I will show you. Right, so I will just submit this and save it the case. Now if I come back to this flow action, once it is saved, and open this section again, you will see two sections. One for the customer. See, two sections. They automatically gets created. But this section is also in this class only, in the work class. If you click on the customer, just click on this, the customer section will be opened as well. And you will see all the properties from the customer class are included here. And this section is actually created under the customer data class. It's not created in the work class. Similarly, the employment section is created into employment data class, and they all are mapped in the work class section using the property, because data class is a different. In the work class, if you're using the data class, you need to find how you are switching the class from the work class to data class. These properties have the class definition of data class and they are residing in the work class, so this actually kind of acts as a bridge. So see, these are these are basically pages on the clipboard, right? Customers, so we are using this to render the to basically include the section from a data class property, sorry, from a data class. Okay. Anyway, so we our flow is basically that we use a flow. That flow has shapes. If it is assignment shapes, you need to configure a flow action, and that flow action will have the section that the user will see. One section, just like create, one section might include plenty other section as well. That's very well understood. And that's something, that's how Pega work. You can include more than one section in a section. If you run this case, so this is the customer detail, this is the employment detail that you get. All right. So Let's close this down. So now we understand basically how things are related. So just in nutshell, basically, this is what we are doing. So in the section, of course, the flow action is in your work class, so you will have a work class section. Now work class section. Now work class section needs to basically capture the data which is defined by a data model. So Pega says that I can create those sections in the work class as well, but Pega says that your data class and presentation of the data should be together. So that means whenever you create a data class, the sections needed, the UI rule needed to display that should also be in the data class. So that's what we saw. Those sections, customer and employment, are actually created in the data class. But from the work class, you need to switch context. And for that, you have to use either clipboard properties, clipboard page, like we have the dot customer property under work class. Pega automatically configured this, so it's not making sense to you, but I will configure address manually, okay, to show you that. So that's how we switch the context. Now, I haven't created address. You guys might have created that. I held on it to explain another concept. So now I'm going to create the address class data model actually. All right. So in the address, we will add whose address it is. So customer ID, and we will add house number. Sorry, house number should not have been text, but sometime it is text as well. So let's leave it. Street, city, state, country, and state, country, and pin code. Actually, that's it. Now I've got an address class created. Let's go back to the address class. Right, so I should create a section rule to display or to capture the address values. Okay, so right click on the address class, or you can create section from here as well, or any rule properties as well. You just have to select the apply to class then. So user interface is the section. So I will create from here user interface section, and this is address detail. This should be in the which class? In the address data class. So this is created. Now you need to add those properties one by one here on the section, and those properties are added through control. Controls can be found from here, plus sign. Control means, is it a text input, it is a date input, it is a display text, it is something else like this, right? So the first thing we want to enter is text input, And this text input we will use. So click on this pencil icon on text input, or here too you will see the text pencil icon. If you click on that to configure this text input, when you configured the view from the case designer, Pega did this all itself. So which property should I configure on the first one? Just click on dot house number. This is the label value from the property name. It will automatically come. If you want to change it, just uncheck this and you can type your own, submit it. So this is house number. Next I want to have the street. Again, text input dot street. Then I want to add city. Again, text input. Then I want to enter another text input for state. Then I want to enter another text input for country. Save it. Now I will create a property for address in the work class. CC application. I can create property from here too. Let me show you. Should be in the B4B CC application. This is also single page. Definition is of course B4B data address. Save it. So address property is created. Now I'm not going to go back to this and configure that view. No, I will do this manually. So in this section, by the way, that one of the things that we saw through flow, you can also just expand it. You have different categories. If you expand the process, you will see flow. If you expand the flow action as well, you can directly go to user interface and expand that create section. You know that this is the create section which we display. On the create section, now I want to include address as well. So this is another section, right? Just like how we edited address, this is also another section. So I need to include the address in this work class section from the data section. Okay, data class. So I will just go to data display, and there is an option under data display called embedded section. Click on that. So by default, remember, Pega will try to look for the section in the same class, but our section is in the data class. So I need to switch the context. So I will use a clipboard page. The clipboard page is going to be the address page, address property that I created, that is in the work class, right? So I will use the address. And the class of the address is B4B data address. That's how we switch the context. Pega did it automatically for other two sections. And then you can select the section from this address class. And that's how another section address has been embedded. Remember, here you see a heading coming up as well, but address doesn't have. So address should ideally be a little up. So you can drag and drop to change the status. Just click on those three dots. And on the address, you can include uh, header too. Just start double click on that in the general category address. So this will also be having a, see, now if I save it and execute the case, I will see address coming up as well. See, this is the customer detail, this is the ad, oh, Okay, this is the address and all that. One more thing that we missed actually. You see, address is coming, but address fields are not displayed. You remember we used clipboard page and then we specified address. So at the runtime, when you initialize, that address property should be on the clipboard. If you click on open the clipboard, py work page, go to the py, that's where the case data is. Py work page is the main case working area. So this is the py work page. So on the py work page, you get all the scalar properties, but any page or page list properties that come under that. So you see customer page is there, employment page is there. That's why employment and customer sections are displayed properly, but address page is not there. So when you create a case, you need to make sure without any value, but address page is made available to the clipboard. Then only the address section will come from the data class. How do we do that? So whenever we create a case, Pega runs a rule, another rule basically called data transform. Data transform is for the transformation or initialization of the data. Okay, we will learn about data transform in detail. But the data transform that is called by Pega during the case creation is called py default, and this py default calls another data transform called py set field default. Let's see. Let's see what happened. So you can find the data transform in the same class. Sorry, under the data model, you will see a data transform. You see py set field default. This is what Pega calls whenever you create a case. And this data transform automatically calls this py set field default data transform. See, it only applies another data transform, that is py set field default. This one. Remember, when we configured the view, Pega automatically added those properties py label initialization with null value in this data transform too. This all was done by Pega by only when you configure this view. Pega did it automatically for you, but address is something that we are adding manually. So Pega did not do it, so we will have to do it. So dot address dot py label is something that is available in every class. I can also set py label to null value. Okay, no value at all. But this will make sure that address page is also at the runtime at the beginning available on the clipboard. Now if I create the case, I will see the address coming up as well without any value, of course, because now on the clipboard the address page is available under the py work page. See, without any value, there isn't any value, city, country, all those. Obj class means which class this property structure belongs to. So this is pre-populated customer employment. All right, so this is how things are related. That's one thing. Second, when you are running the case, you will always not need this much space for CID, first name, last name, right? You probably want to have two column layout, three column layout. This is not looking good, right? It's a long, lengthy form. I could have CID, first name, last name in one column only, one row only. We know that this is coming from the customer section. So go to the create section and then open the customer section. If you want to rearrange, not just stack one by one, I want to have it in two column. This is coming from a template and this is the template. See, one column template is what we have used. That's why everything is in one column. If you click on the change button, you could use two column template as well. Now Pega will create two column for you, column A, column B. And if you scroll down here, you will see column A and column B. Of course, you will have to rearrange stuff. So you might want to rearrange first name here. No, CID should be on the top. You can rearrange these fields just by dragging, dropping. Uh, First name, last name, leave it here. Email, I will bring here. You can drag here as well. Okay. Email, let's say I want to have phone number there. So maybe email on the top of phone number. I want to have PAN number here too. One more field I can bring up, maybe gender on the top. See, now it's structure, it's two-way. Similarly, if I just create another case, see, a little more structured, right? Similarly, you can do that for address too. Address section is already open here. So let me change it to two column as well. House number, I will put street here, city, and then I'll put state here, country I'll leave there, save it. Similarly, employment section, I can change it to two column. There are other options as well you guys can explore. Hmm, I can have company, office address, email, and that should be it. Leave it. Now if I create another case, this is much more in organized way that it was earlier, right? So that's all basically in this session. So we learned how flow basically from a case, how process gets translated into flow shapes, and how flow action comes into the picture to display the section. Sections are a UI rule. Then we saw how do we create section into the data classes, how do we use them in the work class. Remember, wherever you need to use address section or address properties, in any case you just need to define a property, that's it. You can reuse the same section and same class anywhere. So this promotes higher reusability. We also briefly learned about the data transform that gets called by Pega, and what is its significance when you use a property to embed a section from a different class. It is used to initialize the value. It is used to initialize the case value so that um, we see a page on the clipboard that can Pega use then to reference or to basically render the section from the data class. We also saw how we can use the different templates to configure look and feel in different way. There are plenty of such template. This is one column with 100 width. This is two column. First column will have 30%, second column will have 70%. This is two columns, 70% first column, 30% second column. This is two column wrapping, three column. There are plenty of such basically templates which are available. We also have advanced control. We can actually edit this in more advanced way as well, that we will learn maybe towards the middle of the training. Okay, not right now. With this basically we will next time we will have certain in the next session we will have certain validations. Okay, we will talk about the validation, how do we put validation on the properties and other stuff. And then we will also talk about how and where the data gets stored in Pega when we work on the case. When you enter these values, where does it go? Right? How does Pega stores the data? So those are the things coming up in the next session. Okay, so one more thing, let's just add in this session. This is a flow. Okay, this is a flow. Fine. I'm going to add one basically assignment manually. As one assignment manually in this flow to demo you how does it work. Basically, if you want to have better control and create things from scratch. Okay. So yes, when you configure it, Pega automatically configures the flow actions, sections, and all that thing. I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to open this flow and I'm going to add one more assignment. In that assignment, I'm going to ask user if they are applying for a new if they are existing customer or old customer. Okay, that's it. So I added one more assignment. Okay, let me refresh it and show that to you again. I'm adding an assignment say because I need to ask user, and then I will have to click on this arrow and then bring it to the next one. Here I will say new user question mark, and I will use a flow action user type. I can create from here by typing a new name user type selection. Okay, this flow action does not exist. I just typed in. So if I click on this, it will prompt me to create a new flow action. That is okay. I can do that same way. It's process flow action. Okay, but anyway, user type selection. Right. So this is a flow action. In this flow action, I will have to use a section. So I will use the same name section as well. Again, I will create that section in the work class. So it will automatically create in the work class. So see, this is the work class. It is going a new section. User type selection. Create and open. And here I will basically create a property, Boolean property. Yes, no, a text property I'll create. Are you a new user? User will say yes or no. Okay. So I need a property to hold that value. So I'll create a data model property, and that property should be in the work class. It is not related to any model. So new cust new customer. Okay. The values, it will have text, but it can have local list value. It can have either yes or no. I'm defining a local list here. Okay. Local list. We will talk about others too. Now I have this property. In this section, I'm going to configure a drop down. So drop down is under picker category. Drop down, and this is the property new cust. Values, the list source, what value we will show the user to select as defined on the property. We have already defined the values on the property, right? Yes or no? And this is what we will show. The default value we will have placeholder select. We will not let any default value come. It will be select only. User have to make a selection. Save it. Save it. And if you want to preview it, you can preview this. This is how it will look like. Okay, this is good. Now this section I'm going to use on this flow action, and I'm going to save this flow action. Now I have created this property section flow action. My user interface things are ready. Now I'm going to configure this on this assignment shape. Okay. So I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to configure my newly created flow action user type selection. I should actually rename this flow for the better understanding. Is new or old? Okay. Right. And then I will drag it to the submit application. So first Sorry. When at the start it will go to new or old, then it will go to the submit application. Okay, one by one. There are two flow actions. Now, if I refresh the case type, don't save it, it will wipe it out. If you refresh it, it will automatically show up here as well that I added two form actions. When I run it, the first section will come first. See, user type selection. There are two form. You can go back and forth, but this is in the same process, right? And this is something called a screen flow. We will talk about that. So I will say new customer, yes, and then continue. So I will reach to submit application. Can go back there as well. So that's how it is related. The flow needs to have assignment shape. If you want to have users enter something, the assignment shape needs to have a flow action that will actually attach the flow with or basically shape with a section, and that's the section that user will see that you will have in the flow action, and that's where we will conclude it.